Hello fight fans, thanks for joining us at MMA Insider. Before we get rolling with today's news, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now let's uncover the latest happenings in MMA. Starting off, Demetrious Johnson announces his retirement at 168. Moving on, Jorge Masvidal plans MMA comeback later this year or in 2025. Next, Dan Hooker goes off on Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler. Moving on, Israel Adesanya makes serious accusations towards man in roadside altercation. Next, Tony Ferguson teases announcement after parting ways with the UFC. Lastly, Conor McGregor hints at 2025 Irish presidential run ahead of UFC comeback. MMA legend Demetrious Johnson announced his retirement from the sport at 168 on Friday in Denver. Johnson has been contemplating retirement since his trilogy win over Adriano Moraes in May 2023. He's remained active in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at various tournaments but hasn't fought in MMA since the Moraes victory. Johnson announced the news during a special presentation at 168. He received a hero's welcome into the arena as his signature walkout music played throughout the venue. Johnson then laid his one flyweight title belt in the center of the cage in front of the crowd and revealed that he was walking away from MMA. The majority of Johnson's career took place in the UFC octagon. Before becoming the UFC's inaugural flyweight title holder, Johnson made noise in the UFC bantamweight division, going the distance with Dominic Cruz and winning 7 of his first 8 fights overall. Johnson defended the title a record 11 consecutive times, including a one-sided rematch win over Benavidez in December 2013. Johnson also clinched arguably the greatest submissions in UFC history over Ray Borg at UFC 216. Johnson won the one flyweight World Grand Prix by defeating Danny Kingston a year after the trade. Johnson retires with a 25-4-1 professional MMA record. He made his professional debut in July 2006 in Auburn, Washington. Former UFC welterweight Jorge Masvidal has made his future plans clear. Masvidal initially walked away from pro MMA competition following a unanimous decision loss to Gilbert Burns back in April 2023. Masvidal returned to action back in July, sharing the boxing ring with his old rival Nate Diaz. He ended up losing the match via majority decision. Speaking to Grind City Media, Jorge Masvidal said that while he doesn't regret dabbling into the sweet science, he's missing the sport of MMA and is ready to make a return. Here's what he said: "I had a blast doing the boxing. It was fun. It was everything. But there's just nothing in the world that compares to MMA. There ain't in the world like MMA. There's a lot of nights I went to sleep just missing it, just doing certain training or certain workouts. I love it, man. Definitely 100% back to MMA. I don't know when I'm fighting, but I'm fighting either the end of this year or next year." Whether Masvidal makes a return to the UFC or perhaps even fights under his own promotion, it definitely appears that Masvidal wants to trade leather under MMA rules again. Dan Hooker has had enough of his former foes Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler. Hooker has been on a bit of a resurgence as of late after dropping back-to-back fights against current UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev and Arnold Allen. The Dan Hooker has been riding a 3-fight winning streak. Now Hooker is taking aim at 2 men who have defeated him inside the octagon. Over the past few months, Dustin and Michael Chandler have gone back and forth on social media. Caught in the crossfire is Dan Hooker, who observed both Dustin and Michael argue over who had the better win over the Hooker. Well, Hooker has had just about enough of the discourse and took to Combat TV to put both Dustin and Michael on blast. Here is what he said: "Chandler and Dustin are bragging about beating me online, and it's like, bro, you're bragging about beating me on 3 weeks' notice while I was training in my garage. Don't say my name unless you're going to run it back. Keep my name out of your mouth unless you want to fight me again, because I'm coming for all of them. Anyone above me, I'm coming for the lot of them." UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya has issued a statement following his viral street incident. Footage surfaced of a roadside altercation between Israel Adesanya and an unidentified man in New Zealand. At the end of their argument, Adesanya spat in the man's direction. The two did not come to blows, but Adesanya has made serious accusations towards the man. The New Zealand Herald reports that Adesanya has filed a complaint to the police. A statement from Israel Adesanya has been released, and in it are some serious accusations aimed at the other driver. Here's what he said: "On Wednesday morning, I was leaving a cafe when a passing car slowed, and an occupant began yelling racial abuse and challenging me to fight. I smiled, waved it off, and continued to my car. The vehicle stopped, and the abuse continued. The car then parked, and the passenger got out, approached me aggressively, continued his torrent of abuse, and demanded I fight him. I tried to de-escalate the situation repeatedly. As he got closer, I asked bystanders to call the police. He then entered my personal space, and I felt threatened. To protect myself, I became more forceful in my language and defensive. Though he paused, the abuse continued, so I left him with some choice words, cautiously moved to my car, and drove away. It's ridiculous that I can't buy a pie after training without some idiot screaming despicable things and asking for a fight while his mates film from the sidelines. Threatening violence is no joke. It's very dangerous, and incidents like this must not be glorified online. I hope in the future people say something rather than get their phones out to film. Also included in the New Zealand Herald report were some comments from the person who filmed the incident. The anonymous witness admitted that Adesanya's actions were disappointing for a public figure. What are your thoughts on the recent incident involving Israel Adesanya? Do you believe that his actions were appropriate and justified given the circumstances, or do you think he handled the situation inappropriately? Please share your detailed opinion and perspective in the comments. It appears that former UFC interim lightweight champion Tony Ferguson has something in the works. Tony Ferguson last competed at UFC Abu Dhabi in August, facing Michael. Heading into the bout, the former interim lightweight champion had lost his last 7 contests. Pre-fight, Dana White stated that the fight would be Ferguson's last in the promotion, win or lose. Following the loss, the lightweight left one glove in the cage and seemingly teased retirement. However, just hours later, Ferguson U-turned on those plans. In the post-fight press conference, the 40-year-old stated that he was going to keep competing. Now a free agent, it seems that Tony Ferguson has something in the works. Taking to Instagram earlier this week, the former UFC interim lightweight champion released a brief video. In that clip posted to social media, Ferguson teased that an announcement was on the way. However, he declined to say more than that. Former two-weight UFC champion Conor McGregor seemingly has an eye on politics. McGregor hasn't competed since breaking his leg against Dustin Poirier in their 2021 trilogy bout. Due to the injury, Conor McGregor was forced to the sidelines for the last few years. While the former UFC champion was set to return to the cage in June against Michael Chandler, that fight was canceled due to injury. Since then, Conor McGregor has repeatedly called for the chance to face Michael Chandler in December. As of now, UFC 310 lacks a main event, but multiple fighters, including Bilal Muhammad, have shown interest in headlining the pay-per-view event. Regardless, it seems that McGregor has his eye on somewhere other than the cage. Earlier today, the Irishman released a lengthy post on social media. On X, Conor McGregor wrote about his intention to seek the presidency of Ireland. However, Conor McGregor is not alone in his intention to seek public office. Earlier this year, Sean Strickland showed interest in running for a House of Representatives seat, and Colby Covington publicly discussed a run for governor of Florida. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Your dedication and support fuel our passion to bring you the latest and greatest in the MMA world. If you enjoyed today's news, please give us a thumbs up and share it with fellow MMA fans. Remember to subscribe to stay in the loop with daily MMA updates. We've got a lot of exciting news, interviews, and analysis coming your way every single day. Your engagement helps us grow and serve the MMA community even better. Once again, thank you for being an integral part of our daily MMA journey.